So, yeah, so she was talking about how adults can be afraid of special needs. So I'm single, I've been single for 20 years. I'm not interested in a guy, I've got this autistic, aggressive adult, and they will stop talking to me. So, but that's okay. I know that when I walk towards my purpose, I'm gonna look to the side, and the guy that God has for me, he'll be there. But I've been procrastinating, so he's like standing on the side somewhere going, sometime today would be nice. So, okay, so yes, I have an autistic adult. When he was about 4 is when I found out about autism. Now, back then, there wasn't anything on autism. My mother-in-law looked at me and she said, I think it is autism. I was like, what's that? And of course, the internet wasn't really there yet. This was like 1996. And, but now I had this answer. This is why my son doesn't laugh. This is why my son lines up cars. This is why my son is so quirky. And like some adults I would read about, they would be like, oh, my world is shattered. You know, all these expectations I had for my kid, I can't do them anymore. But I was like, yes, I have an answer. And what do I need to do to help my son? Because we're to train them up in the way they should go. But I haven't got a clue, you know. But I knew this was God's gift. And there may be days where I'm like, what were you thinking? Why? You know, what did I do wrong? But then it's like, wait, no. There is a ministry in the pain. So when my son was about 5, I got this thing in the mail. And it was from Happy Hill Farm. Now, I'm from Iowa. And so cornfields, hogs, everything right. So when I saw a farm, I was like, oh, I want to know more about this. It's a farm for troubled teens. Okay, they're in Granbury, Texas. They have really grown. But back then, you know, they were just really getting some momentum. And it's like as if somebody was standing behind me, reading this with me, and said, you're going to do that for Dante. Okay. You know, hey, it's a farm. I'm for that. So I'm an all-in person. It's like, yeah, let's do this. And I just heard God say, nope, you're not ready. You don't know anything yet. Okay. So I didn't know anything about autism, right? I just had this kid, and what am I going to do with him? So over the years, I've been learning about autism. Your best resources are other mothers, okay? And so reading what they're doing and trying to apply that and helping my son in school. And did I persevere in that? I kind of went left. I knew God was calling me to be an accountant when I was in 11th grade. That was where my focus was. Since I can't do this ranch right now, I left my abusive marriage and I started going to school. It took me 20 years to get my master's degree. And then here I am not using it. But it's okay. It'll come back around. I know it will, because I know God called me to that. So right now I'm in transition. I worked and went to school, and I feel like my boys sacrificed for that because I wasn't living in the present. I was living in the future. That ranch, that, you know, I'll get my degree and I'll make my life better. I'll do this and that'll make my life better, our life better. So, oh shoot, I'm exhausted, so my thoughts just kind of leave me for a moment. So I got my degree, and now it's like I'm waiting for my son to graduate because that's when the ranch is going to start. This ranch is going to start when my son graduates because, like all mothers, I'm thinking, what is my son going to do when he graduates? Well, God had already given me the answer. So like, okay, he's graduated, let's go, let's start this. And I felt God say, yeah, you haven't learned everything yet. Because my son was 23. If any of you have boys, grown boys, you know that adolescence period, that testosterone wash, it doesn't wear off until they're 21, 23 years old. And then they're calmer. So I had to go through that, I had to learn that. And there's still some things I had to learn as my son's growing older because he's a head slammer. He slams his head on the ground. Now I'm learning, hey, we're probably dealing with some head trauma here. that doesn't show up on CT scans. So I have my degree. He's graduated. I'm ready to start. God's saying not yet. But he started going to Dayhab that his Sunday school teacher had started. And she wanted to hire his high school teacher because they were best friends. Well, I was thinking, oh, wouldn't it be great if we could like write into a place that would give them a grant to do the salaries so that she could hire her. And I was thinking, oh, I could do that. I'm an accountant, money in, money out, I could do that. And that's how Join the Pieces started. That wasn't God's idea. That was mine. That was mine. It's like, oh, that's how I'm going to fund the ranch. Because God had told me the ranch is not coming from my resources. As a matter of fact, I'm in a position where I barely have any money. You know, I have just enough. God has supplied all my needs according to his riches and glory, but not enough to where I can go fund a ranch. Because then it would be me starting it and not God. You know, this has got to be all God or it won't work. Especially, you know, I'm all about, when I was talking about a box, I don't have one. Because with an autistic child, it doesn't work. The system doesn't always work. For me, when my son was growing up, it was everybody's trying to make them normal. They're not going to be. They're not wired that way. You know, my son was forced to look you in the eyes. Now he has PTSD from that. If you say look, he's going to flip out. So this ranch will be completely different. We're going to look for other ways of doing things than what has been done. Back to Join the Pieces. So Join the Pieces has become, because it wasn't God's idea, it was mine. I was trying to make it work, and falling flat on my face. And this was like started in 2016. And in 2018, I was going to have this nice big shindig and fundraiser and stuff. But I had people getting mad at me because I was doing it in December. And I listened to them and I fell on my face. And then the next year, I got back up, had a fundraiser, got some money in, started doing some grants. Okay, then it was like, okay, God, this has got to be yours. I got to give this to you. This is not what you called me to do. I am sorry, I repent, but I know you can do something great with it. So it pivoted to be not about my son, but about others. We'll serve others with this. And I tell you what, this year it took off. I haven't even asked for money, except for once. God told me to go talk to somebody. We got $5,000. We were giving grants for the last 2 years for $2,000. Well, this year we'll be able to do $2,500. And start putting together an endowment. I mean, I got money coming in now, and I didn't have anything to do with it. So it's like, give it to God, you know, whatever it is, give it to God. He's the one who'll do the work. Because this year, I feel like now is the time to start getting the ranch rolling. It's not like proof it's going to be here. There's still some things I got to do. In 2019, I was an accountant for a nonprofit in Mesquite. And I was talking to my life group teacher, my Sunday school teacher, and he was talking about how God had told him to leave his job and start off his ministry, start his own business. I just felt this flood of peace just pouring on down. I was like, oh, you want me to leave my job, don't you? And yeah, God gave me confirmation. I had to leave my 40-week job and strike out on my own. I did bookkeeping on the side, so there was some money coming in there. And God gave me 2 verses. He will supply all my needs according to his riches and glory. Don't worry about tomorrow. Tomorrow will take care of itself. That's Matthew 6:36, I think. So for these past few years, I'm like getting just enough income coming in, you know, and what have you. And then the first thing I felt God tell me to do was do a business plan. I never did a business plan. This took me a year because I was so focused on I've never did a business plan before that, you know, procrastination, I've been really good at that too. But then it came to me, you know, I've done research papers. So I pivoted and did a research paper. I have to say my business plan turned out pretty good. I've been told that. So, I'm sorry, this is the first time I'm speaking, I've ever spoke. And there's so much I want to say, and then I'm a fast talker, and it's like, oh, slow down, chill out. But so, in regards to perseverance, this ranch has been on my heart since my son is 5 years old, and he's 30. 3 would be nice. And I didn't always focus on it. I didn't always go in that direction. I didn't always persevere in what to do for my son. But in 2019, I feel like I am finally settling down to really persevere. James 1:4 says, let perseverance has its work in you, so that you may mature, be complete, and lack nothing. Okay, this ranch is something I've never done before. And so I feel like I lack everything. But the more I sit down and I focus in it, it's coming together. I was lacking a business plan. So I prayed, and God showed me, hey, treat it like this. And now I have a business plan. I have a board. I have the nonprofit. It is a 501c3. So it's showing the pieces. And we have a bank account. And a little bit of money's trickling in. This is exciting. We're about to move to Palestine. I felt God telling me I was going to move at the beginning of the year. And so now, but then later he told me Palestine. And so we're headed that way to get acclimated into the community, and then God will show me the next step. I feel like I'm still learning what to do with the autism, and now I'm going to be paid by the state to take care of my son, so I'm going to use that so that I can now really focus on him, autism, and so yeah, that's going. So I mean, my gosh. God is so good. So good. So let me tell you what I'm persevering through, because I know I'm like, wait a minute, I feel like I'm almost done. And it's like, I know I just got started. So with autism, you know, no two autistic kids are. Does anybody here have an autistic child or know somebody?
My grandson is.
Yeah. You can always find us. You can always find somebody.
She has a mild form of it.
Okay, cool.
My son has Asperger's, mild.
Yeah, and they did away with that label.
Yeah.
I don't get that. Asperger's people like to be called Asperger's. They like to be called Asperger's.
It's more defining.
It is, exactly. You know what you're dealing with.
He's not what we would consider autistic by what definition we always use.
Right. Like
But I knew when he was 18 months, he was different. And there was nothing, you know, he's 31, I think he just turned 31. There was no internet to look stuff up like that.
Exactly.
And, he was not diagnosed until his senior year in high school. And, because he's so high functioning.
Right.
I mean, but he always
Yes,
thought,
those quirks.
yes, it's the quirks, and he always couldn't really relate to people his age. And I was like, I can't wait till he's an adult. But the fact is, those people are really probably never gonna relate to him that well.
Right.
So he's got small
He's on
friends,
a
but.
different plane, which could be a good thing, because their perspective is just, can be
Oh,
really
yeah, he's
amazing. You
just
see
smart
things
for his own
really different.
good, but, yeah, it was a trial, and it was really unfortunate for
Yeah.
him, but I believe too, it should have kept its name.
Yeah.
That
It's
reason.
okay, we use it anyway. For me, my son is nonverbal, well, some verbal. He mostly, your conversations are gonna be about Disney movies. He knows when they were created and, yeah, and now, Gwen. So he is on YouTube all the time, and they do these clips where you'll hear one movie, but you may see clips of several other movies. So now his papers, he comes to me, he'll say Peter Pan, 1961, whatever it came out, but he's saying Peter Pan as such and such and such other movies. So I was like, okay, great. Just, yes, that sounds good. I mean, so, and then the screaming, the slamming his head, the hitting his head. And since I don't know what's going on, you know, I've got to piece this all together. I figured out when he was about 13 that a lot of the head slamming was because of pain. So when he was about 7 or 10, I took him off of milk and casein. I had a completely different child. I have read that they produce an opium when they're drinking this, or they either do that from the gluten or from the casein. For my son, it was the casein, which is a milk protein. And so when I took him off of this, it was like a drug addict. I swear, a drug addict coming off a drug. He was just furious, slamming his head and screaming, and did that for a couple of days. Got home from school one day and just crashed. Couldn't wake him up for a good 12 hours. Like, okay, if he doesn't wake up in the morning, I'll take him to the hospital. 5 o'clock in the morning, I'm awakened by somebody laughing. My son was free of pain. I was doing the good mom thing and giving him a little glass of milk every day. So he went from slamming his head to slamming his body. And I don't know what's going on. And so when I took him off the casein, he's laughing. He's not hitting his head. He's not getting frustrated. Not screaming as much. He's a happy little kid. And, you know, I read a book later. I couldn't find it, but it's called, if I remember right, something about help me. My mom is something like hurting me, killing me, or something, because what it was his mom had put him on a gluten casein-free diet. He had a brother that if you touched him, it hurt. So he was always fighting, always acting out, stuff like that, because he was in so much pain, but nobody knew why. Got him off the casein. He acted like a drug addict. The mom kept milk in the house. I mean, if you're trying to get your child up in the house, don't bring it in the house. So this guy was always tearing everything out, trying to get to that milk. And so finally, when she did remove it from the house and he got completely free, she had a completely different child. He wasn't in pain anymore. I'm like, that's what was the deal with Dante. My son was in so much pain from head to toe from all the milk that when he was free, he was free. We had gone from one school to another and then back. So when he came back, the teacher was like, this is like a completely different kid. And back then, if you want to put your child on gluten casein-free diet, you had to fight everybody to do it. Because, you know, they're like, oh, it's going to be a lot of work. It really hasn't. We just switched from whole milk to almond. You know, and you know, it's as hard as you want to make it. You know, it really is. If you can just persevere, let perseverance have its good work. It will mature you, you'll be complete, and you're going to have this knowledge and whatever it is you need to have. I don't know where to go from there. Any questions? Yes.
These girls right here from the day have a Maybank.
Oh, cool. In Maybank? Is that the one she was talking about or a different one?
This, different one, like Cedar Creek Lake. Theirs is called Levin,
So I'm always looking for places to send grant applications to. We get a grant, pretty cool too. They didn't have audits, they didn't have all this. I'm asking for it, but I'm like, give me what you got. And so it was pretty cool. The country reserve in Wiley,
I have the baby's card. I'll
okay,
try to
cool,
find
yeah.
it.
That'd be perfect, I'll write contact her. And budget, they wanted to get headphones to help these people read. And we gave it to them, you know, they just had a budget and stuff like that. It's like, heck yeah, you got a purpose, we want to supply you with fund that purpose. So, any other questions? I'm sorry.
Sorry.
I know, I've been kind of just rambling. I tried to write notes on this, but my son has just been really screaming and trying to
Kristina?
move and.
Kristina,
Yes.
what about churches? How have churches been receptive or not receptive?
Well, here's the thing, I have to go to churches that have a special needs class. Okay, and we were at, we were before that church, New Vision, we were at, First Sunnyvale Church, First Baptist Sunnyvale, and, had an awesome teacher, you know, and so when we moved to New Vision, Tandy was great with him, but she wasn't equipped for him. He kind of sat in a corner and just did paperwork, but he was listening. He was listening because if things didn't go right, he knew the routine it was supposed to be. She knew about it. Yeah,
So he likes
yes.
routines and stuff.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah.
We were having problems because he was getting so hooked on schedules, we couldn't deter. And so I stopped the schedules. Well, that was not a really good plan.
She likes schedules, she wants everything planned out, she likes routines, she don't like to go off of it, she doesn't like loud noises. Like the microphone earlier, she felt like her head was about to explode.
Yes.
She
And
likes
see,
her headphones, she likes YouTube, she likes being in quiet rooms where it's dark, she keeps to herself. I'm not saying she don't love me and her daddy, but her room is her,
she's not
literally
gonna
her
show you
sanctuary.
the way we.
And certain things, like people don't understand how to handle them. There's nothing wrong with them. They're still perfect, they're still angels, they're still precious. They learn different, and she's so smart. She's very smart, she's so smart.
I believe that too.
She's got straight A's right now.
It's getting them to get it out. That's
She's
what my
hard
son.
to talk to sometimes, and she's hard to communicate with because her mind is going 90 to nothing, and her mouth can't catch up.
Do you have her on any diets or anything? Have you
The
tried?
only thing we have her on is antidepressants, and they said that we can't physically diagnose her with autism, but I told them I know there's something wrong with her because I can feel it, because
Yeah.
the way she has friends, and her friends are close to her, and she don't let just anybody in.
Yeah.
She's not closed-minded, but she's very iffy about who she's around. And she's very iffy on trusting people because she's easily hurt, and when she's easily hurt, she gets very angry, and she doesn't know how to express that anger because she's literally wanted to hit people before, and I said, you can't go around hitting everybody. But they said that she's too old to diagnose with autism because she's 16, but I know that there's nothing wrong with her.
There's somebody. Yeah, and
And we tell her there's nothing wrong with her, she's perfect, she's the way God made her.
do you read any books by autistic people?
No, but she loves to read.
Well, Donna Williams, she's a really good one. Yeah, she's written all kinds of books. She passed away in her 40s from cancer, but you can find her on YouTube. She's written a bunch of books that kind of give you some insights on what she's going through. And she tried the diet in her later in life, the gluten-free diet, and she found it cleared up her mind.
She has trouble digesting milk, and we give her almond milk, but she doesn't like the almond milk. She wants real milk.
Yeah.
And she, until we got her braces, she was a junk food junkie. We took away her cereal, we took away her chips, we took away her candy, so now she's going through withdrawal.
Yeah, that's the best thing you do, Mama.
But her
Because
favorite
bodies
thing,
don't process
her
things
favorite
the same.
thing is repetition. She loves schedules.
Yeah.
She's good with schedules.
Yeah. My son too, if I don't have a schedule, I'm in. And then
And
if I
people think
deter
something's
from
wrong
that
with her because
schedule.
she can't sit still. She has to have a leg going or an arm twitching or something.
Yeah.
And they think that she's constantly nervous. No, that's her coping mechanism.
Yeah, exactly. My son used to stem, and they made him quit. So now he just does it differently. Now his hair is always like poofed out because
Big legs are always
he
good,
rubs his face
90 to
in.
nothing, always.
Yeah. Yeah, I actually, when we got away from school and daycare and stuff, and they wouldn't let him stem, I started telling him, do this, you know, get that back. And starting to see it come back. I'd rather do that than, he's such a handsome guy until he's fluffed up his hair and he looks a little crazy, you know? So, yeah. Huh? Anybody else have a question?
I have a great aunt that used to house autism people.
Oh, yeah?
She took care of,
Bless her heart.
one year she would take care of girls, and the next year she would take care of boys.
Where, did she, like, were they high functioning or?
Some of them were, some of them weren't.
See, the problem I had was that my son being aggressive, he couldn't, there's no place for him. You know, they do not want aggressive behavior, you'll see it on their website, and I understand, you know.
See, I had a cousin that was like that, and he had a radio with him all the time. And if he gets upset about something, he'll turn the radio on and put it on.
And everybody else, yeah.
See, there are different forms. I worked at the state school in Denton, and some of them, you know, some of the kids that were head slammers, they had to wear helmets. There was this young girl, it was the only thing that would calm her, she had a radio. And it had to stay on this certain type of music. If it got changed, like one of the other kids was messing with it,
Oh,
changed
yeah.
it. She went off, she went nuts. Finally, we got it changed back and she calmed down, but, you know, yeah, there are certain calming mechanisms.
There is, yeah. Yeah, my son likes to cut paper,
And they're all different.
so, yeah, and yes, no two alike, not jokes, that makes it harder, to figure out what's going on. But yeah, so the puzzle piece is because with autism, they are the puzzle we're trying to figure out. Yeah, so, and I found out the autism community really doesn't like the puzzle piece. They don't feel like they are a puzzle. And, cause I find blogs written by.
We're all puzzled.
Exactly. But in their mind, no, so they have the infant side, that's the autism colors. So, okay, I'm still using the puzzle piece, because there's still a puzzle to me. I'm just telling you that way.
Every one of them.
Do what?
Every one of us is a puzzle.
Yeah, just different colors.
I like that.
Yeah, yeah.
Well, and they just want to label kids all the time.
Yes, and that makes it hard.
That's why we homeschool my grandkids at Liberty.
Oh, cool.
We don't like what they're teaching in the public schools, and we don't want them.
Yes, it's not crazy. Yeah, I wish I could have homeschooled John.
Because I have 4 sons, and my 3rd son has 9 children, and they all live with us.
How about Full House?
Yeah. In a parsonage next door.
Oh, wow. Very cool. Very cool, though. I'm glad you're doing that.
I'm the granny name.
You are? When did you find out you were autistic?
Monday morning,
Yeah?
and they found out the baby, I'm autistic and stuff.
So what is it like for you?
It's kind of hard, I get the itchy fits a lot and all that, hit my head and all that,
So why do you hit your head?
they keep me saying no, and I don't like to know.
Very cool. That gives me some insight. Thank you so much. Yeah? You hit your head too? So do you guys like slam it on the floor or what?
No, I hit mine the head on the table or the wall.
Yeah. Same. So you got holes in the walls?
No.
Well, my son does. I'm trying to get my whole space and
No one hit my head that hard.
My big brother puts holes in his wall.
Wow. Y'all don't be catching holes in that far now.
I know.
But it's okay if you do.
I keep my cool.
You keep your cool? All
I
right.
don't do anything like that.
So what do you do? What are your, some of your?
See, Tina's saying sometimes you do.
There's always one of them that call you out.
I do anything.
When your
I like to
sister
do work.
tells you,
Get out much.
Yeah.
we're talking about your behavior.
So what about when you get upset? What do you do?
I go to my room and listen to music.
And that's calming for you? Yeah, that's calming for me too.
Yes,
Yes.
So when she gets upset, what she do?
she started yelling.
Yeah,
Okay. So she's loud.
Really, really, really loud. That can go all the way
I'm
inside.
a rocker too.
They're jumping on you. I know yelling, so everyone must be yelling. Not just Michelle.
I know. Women like to have one.
The lady with the coalition with Kim, she started that.
Part of the family, we love you.
I'm a note taker.
Yes.
And then I can't find the note.
Yes. Yes, exactly what I'm trying to get at.
I think me and you have to do that practice.
I feel that too.
That's what my husband always says, write it down, Margaret.
Yes. All these pieces of paper, I wrote it down, I don't know where it's at. Exactly, so I'm gonna ask you guys, do you guys ever feel any pain? Like, if it's too loud, it gets, it hurts? Yeah. So have you guys always gonna look at people in the eyes? No? So when you always have people saying, look at me, everything? Did that hurt when they asked you to do that? No, it didn't? I know it does some, like, loud noise.
Yes, not like that from my hair.
Yeah. These are my tools. And this is what they go through. And this, for me, this is where I get my information. These ladies are how we can know what they need. You guys are awesome. You'll never let anybody treat you less.
Right.
Me, you think of me as your backup mama.
You guys are precious gifts from God. That's what the Bible
They
says.
are. They are. You are
Like God
able
led you to our
to
church.
learn more. You are able to do more. Don't ever let anybody tell you you can't.
That's me, I can't do anything.
Yeah.
You can do anything.
Oh, yes, you can.
You
What are you
can.
talking about?
Amen.
So, yeah, you're awesome. You're awesome. Well, cool.
She's part of our praise team now at the church.
Awesome.
And she's never been to church, so, okay, take her.
She's got a beautiful
There
voice
is
and she loves
ability
music.
in disability. Yeah, just to help the rest of us.
How many people are there? They have like 20? Huh? I can't remember all. I know most of them.
Very cool. I'm so glad I got to meet you ladies.
Thank you for having us. Thank you.
Brittany, Tina, and Michelle.
Michelle, that's cool.
Isn't that pretty?
Tina, that's like half my name.
My real name's Kristina now, and call me Peter.
Oh, really? Oh, we're sisters, all right.
Amen.
Sorry.
Gotta take care of the kid. That's one thing.
I'm in a church, so I wanna make sure it's 9:10 before I walk out the door.
Well, I'm glad I met you ladies. Anybody else have any questions? So my two organizations are on Facebook, Joining the Pieces Foundation and Amazing Bee Ranch. What time is it?
It's almost time.
Okay, cool. Good. So I hope that wasn't too painful for you guys. My son is being watched, so I will have to leave at 3. If you want my contact information, get me during lunch. Okay, I'd be happy to talk to anybody.